Welcome to the Connor's Corner segment of Ask the Lawyer. As some of you know, my son Michael went to school in Canada at McGill University, and he was up there. He saw a TV series he enjoyed tremendously, and a few years ago, he told me about it, and we found it on Netflix. The name of the series was Republic of Doyle, and we're very, very happy to have the star of that series, Allan Hawco. How you doing today, sir?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
Now, you can get Republic of Doyle on Netflix. So can you tell the audience what it's about, where it's placed, where are you from, and so forth?
Yeah, sure. Republic of Doyle is an hour-long procedural comedy drama show that I created and show ran. And we shot it in a place called Newfoundland, which is on the east coast of Canada. And Newfoundland has a real interesting kind of cultural flavor to it in that we were founded by Irish immigrants in late 1500s. So there's a real Irish and unique charm and culture about the place. I'm from there, I live there, and the show was conceived with the idea of like a Rockford Files in that small town, kind of like what the UK did with like the Hamish Macbeth and those kind of shows. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, and like every week somebody gets murdered.
Not every week.
Well, every on your show.
Well, you play the first couple of seasons. We played with as many different types of crimes as you could kind of get away with without capital crimes. But then eventually it does lead you to higher stakes when you're writing a cop show. Even though we were PIs, private detectives, you do end up having to write yourself into the high stakes murder game, which is not what Newfoundland. It's not what Newfoundland is about.
Yeah, I was talking to a Christian brother who was up in St. John's for a few years, and I told him about the series, and he says, "Well, how can you do a crime series in St. John's? There's no murders."
Yeah, it has a tongue-in-cheek quality to it. It is a dramedy. There's a lot of you've seen it. It's a lot of comedy as well mixed with the drama. So as seriously as you could take it, the show itself doesn't take itself too seriously, and everyone in Canada, which is what the show was initially written for, Canadian audience first, they would all know that it's a bit of a joke that we would have that many, shysters and criminals and con people. And because it is really, the plots are always intertwined with my character, Jake Doyle, getting himself into all kinds of precarious, don't necessarily naturally live there in that province,
Right.
It's fun.
And another thing, too, it's always sunny and, you have long days and everything else. Do you ever have winter up in Newfoundland?
Buddy, we have winter, let me tell you.
Yeah.
We have a winter that you guys have never experienced. But it's too hard to shoot. We do a new series called Frontier that's a Netflix original that we do shoot in the winter, and it is barbaric to shoot outside. It's not pretty. So we shot Republic of Doyle basically from July right into usually November. We'd get a little bit of winter near the end. You can see it in some of the seasons, but we usually get a pretty good solid chunk of time where the weather's decent from in that time frame. But May in Newfoundland is pretty much covered in fog and rain. So you really got to kind of, if you're going to visit Newfoundland, which I highly recommend, it is one of the most beautiful places in the world. You want to go in late July, August is usually our finest weather time.
Okay, we'll give that a shot. Now, Frontier, you started to mention that. Now that's a completely different show. What is that about? And you're one of the producers of that series.
Yeah, that's right. So, we started a company called Take the Shot Productions, and we've gone on to produce a number of different shows since Republic of Doyle that we write and produce in Newfoundland and shoot. And Frontier is a fur trade series. Turn of the 18th century. It's set in 1780. Jason Momoa of Justice League and Aquaman, he's our lead in that show, and he plays a native indigenous, half indigenous guy, half European guy, who is involved in the fur trade and is kind of at war with the Hudson Bay Company. And it's based on historical, fact, but it's also like a really interesting, cool, blood and war-driven drama. It's really, really interesting. And we just premiered our third season on Netflix. It's a Netflix original series, and it's a huge tale. 6 episodes every season. it's really worth the watch. Our feedback for that show has been it's been really successful.
One of the interesting things there, you have the clash of all the cultures. Can you just throw that in? I mean, some of the characters, where are they from? Where's your character from in the series?
Yeah, my character is a Scot. He's from Scotland. So you're dealing with the kind of like the creation of what is now the formation of both of our countries, Canada and the creation of that border, Canada and the U.S. And it's the first North American's first capitalist enterprise. You know how history, and you think about all the wars that were fought over silk and over, various things. It was, the founding of our two nations was, and the capitalism as we know it, was founded over beaver pelts, which is just staggering when you think about that. And but it was real, high stakes, and there's all of these different cultures are clashing. Of course, there's all the various different indigenous tribes and groups who are being invaded by the Europeans, and they're all sort of fighting for their place, and that's a big part of the show. And there's also the European invaders in terms of the HBC, the British. There's the French influence, which was huge across our country. At that time, England and France were fighting for that position, as well as Americans who were fighting for their place and what is the border and being a part of this trade. And I play one of the Europeans from Scotland who owns a fur trading company that's everybody's fighting for their supper at the highest stakes game possible, because you're out in that wilderness in the middle of literally nowhere fighting to survive. And it's pretty cool.
It has, and I enjoy the series. I love history and anything that's historical fiction or whatever. I love. So, but one thing I haven't seen anything about is is it your current series, or is it out? Caught?
Yeah. It's and we haven't done a deal in the U.S. yet, so it hasn't gotten to you. So, Republic of Doyle is on Netflix, and obviously Frontier is on Netflix. But Caught is I'm actually right now in the writing room putting together a season 2. And season 1 aired in Canada in February this year, and we're working on a season 2. But they're short seasons. It's almost like a limited miniseries, five episodes a season. So hopefully, once we get another season done, maybe a third, they'll be sold as a package to the U.S. Or maybe even, what I'd prefer is that an American partner, an American broadcaster, was to come on board for a season 2. And then carry season 1 and 2 at the same time. But, when you start kind of coming up with ideas for TV shows, all these business details kind of get in there, and it's a weird treasure map that you got to go find all of these different things to make one of these shows happen. It's kind of a miracle, but it's a really cool show. It's set in the 70s. I play a guy who busts out of prison to get revenge on his old partner and in crime, because they were drug dealers. Long before Canada made marijuana legal, obviously. And it's kind of based on a lot of true stories, a lot of lore from the place where I'm from, some real guys. But it takes place across the country of Canada and in Colombia and Mexico. It's pretty neat.
Now, you say where you're from. Where are you from?
Newfoundland.
But what part?
St. John's, Newfoundland.
St. John's,
I was born on an island called Bell Island, which was a mining town, but I grew up in a place called the Goulds, which is just outside St. John's. The Avalon Peninsula is how we'd say it.
All right. Well, do you know what's next? Or are you still working on Caught, I guess?
Well, yeah, but I've done 3 different series. I can't talk about one of them, but it was a big U.S. series. I was the only Canadian in the show, so but we haven't been allowed to release my involvement in that yet. So whenever they give us the go-ahead, we could talk again, maybe, because it's a big one. It's a really cool, big show that I shot all summer and into September, and it was a lot of fun. We were on location in a very cool part of the world doing that. And I've done a couple of other shows and a couple other things here and there, but it's hard for me to act in other work because I'm writing and producing these shows that we do. So it's a balancing act. It's certainly an embarrassment of riches in terms of having the opportunity to do the thing you love to do. So I'm not complaining, but it is fun to kind of walk on someone else's set and just be a performer. It's a lot of fun.
Do you see yourself as an actor or as a writer, producer? What do you see yourself as?
Actor first, for sure, because that was the writing is a big drive always has been, but I come from the theater. I trained at the National Theater School, and when I graduated school, worked in theaters across the country. Never moved to the LA game to go chase that dream. It was always about kind of creating my own work. So I started my own theater company with a friend of mine, Phil Riccio, in 2003 in Toronto, which is still alive today, still going strong. And, it was always about creating my own opportunities. So I think the producing is a means to an end, but I do have a love for it, but first and foremost is how do I be the best actor I can be, and then writer probably.
Those in the audience out there, Netflix, Republic of Doyle, Frontier, and you can see the person that I'm talking about, Allan Hawco. Listen, thank you. It's a very entertaining series, Republic of Doyle and Frontier. Thank you for doing that because, I hate to say it, but if I watch TV here in the States, I don't think we get that quality.
Well, that is very kind of you to say, man. And Republic of Doyle was a lifelong passion project for me and my partners, and it changed my whole life. And it was one of the most fun experiences that an actor, a writer could ever have, I think. So I'm glad. It's very nice to hear that people across the world are appreciating it, and yourself. I appreciate those kind of words.
All right. Well, thank you again, Allan. Thank you for coming on Connor's Corner.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much.